away from the official start of the season, but you don't have to wait for the start of Stardom. Sit 'em here on Fantasy Live. You get it on the show. You get it on NFL.com with Michael F. Florio. Let's start with Deshaun Watson making the opener start against the Cincinnati Bengals. Are you starting him on your fantasy team?
Yeah, I know all summer I was the person saying, like, Deshaun Watson's going to play better than he did last season, but I need to see it first. I'm going to sit Deshaun Watson, and a big part of it is this matchup against the Bengals. Last season, they allowed the second fewest fantasy points and the fewest offensive touchdowns to quarterbacks. Plus, somehow, Lou Anarumo is still not a head coach, and he's the DC here for Cincy. We've seen him shut down Josh Allen. We've seen him make life very tough on Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to hold still and wait on Deshaun Watson.
You start to wonder what else does Lou Anarumo need to do in order to get a head coaching job. Let's go to Anthony Richardson, the rookie, making his first start. Are you starting him?
I know a lot of people are like, you can't start a rookie quarterback. I don't care. I am starting Anthony Richardson everywhere that I drafted him. Look, I think he could be the Colts' lead runner on the season, on the week, all of that. When they get near the goal line, remember how Jalen Hurts last year was the Eagles' goal line runner? He has the same coach now. I think Anthony Richardson will do that. Plus, anything you get in the passing game is a bonus. The Jags last year did allow the third most rushing yards to quarterbacks.
And considering the back situation in Indy, maybe Anthony Richardson will have to fill that role because nobody else can. We'll go to a look at the new quarterback in New York. That would be Aaron Rodgers making his first start on Monday Night Football. Are we starting or sitting Aaron Rodgers?
Everyone's going to call me a homer for this. I'm saying sit Aaron Rodgers. And I know he's one of the greatest of all times. He's a legend, all of that. Do you remember what it was like to have Aaron Rodgers in fantasy last year? He did not top 20 fantasy points in a single game. The Bills last year allowed the 7th fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks, and their secondary, if Micah Hyde plays, it will be their first time playing as a full unit since Thanksgiving of 2021. Plus, it's first game, new team, new offensive coordinator, a lot of risk there. I would play it safe and get away.
Yeah, there's some other options for you in week one. I'm with Mike on that one. Let's get to some running backs. Let's talk about this opener, Jahmyr Gibbs. You talked about his season upside. You said maybe he's an RB2 to start things off. Does that mean he's a sit in week one?
No, I'm starting Jahmyr Gibbs. I am so excited about this Lions offense. I tattooed one on me.
Roar!
Look, I understand some projections are low for Gibbs. I don't care. The Chiefs last season allowed the most receptions to running backs, and the Lions are going to have to put up points to keep up with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Gibbs is a threat to take the ball the distance every time he touches it. Someone that explosive is someone that I want in my starting lineup.
In the immortal words of Mike Price, we have, it's rolling, baby. We have one tied back. Let's go to another. Najee Harris. Are we doing double starts here? Najee Harris playing the opener against the 49ers, Mike.
We are sitting Najee Harris. And look, I'm not telling you just to flat out sit Najee Harris, but if you have another option that you feel comfortable with, I would go in the other direction. And a big part of it is the 49ers. Last year, they allowed the fewest fantasy points, yards, and touchdowns to running backs in a 17-game season. They did not allow 1,000 yards to running backs in the whole season and just 6 touchdowns. Najee is always more volume dependent. In this matchup, if you have another option, I would get him.
All right, we got to sit there. Let's go to a guy who's college team got to win. The Knowles and James Cook. The Buffalo Bills played him a lot in the preseason. Is he a start in week one?
I'm going to get called a homer for this, but I've been trying to lead the James Cook hype train all summer. I'll put my money where my mouth is. I am saying you start James Cook even in a tough matchup against the Jets. And like you said, he played over 70% of the snaps with Josh Allen and the starters in the preseason. But we know the Jets' D-line is tough, and their secondary is extremely tough. I think the Bills are going to try to exploit the Jets' linebackers, which means a lot of passes to James Cook and Dalton Kincaid. But I'm definitely starting James Cook as my RB2 this week.
And if you're going to levy the homer accusations at Mike, you're going to have to hit all of us. Because we've all been high on James Cook, especially considering what they've done thus far this preseason. Let's take a look at some of the other starts and sits. We're going to get the wide receivers and tight ends from Florio coming up later on. He's got Tua, Geno, Javonte Williams, J.K. Dobbins as starts. But if you got Daniel Jones, Kenny Pickett, Rashad White, or Jamal Williams, Florio says you might want to think about sitting those guys. Don't forget, check all of the starts and sits at NFL.com. We're back here on NFL Fantasy Live, and it's time to get back to the starts and sits with Michael F. Florio. We're going to start with some wide receivers here. And Chris Olave and the Saints taking on the Titans. Are you starting the second-year star?
I am 100% starting Chris Olave. There we go. Look, Last season, this guy was 7th amongst wide receivers in yards per route run, and that was as a rookie. He was also 4th in air yards per target. The issue was his quarterbacks weren't able to take the advantage of those. I think that changes with Derek Carr, and I think it changes in a big way in week 1 as the Titans allowed the most yards and touchdowns on deep passes last year. Mr. Air Yards is my pick to be the biggest breakout this season. I think it starts in week 1.
Okay, so Chris Olave's got a new quarterback. Michael Pittman Jr.'s got a new quarterback as well. In fact, he's very new to not just the NFL, but maybe quarterbacking. Didn't get a whole lot of starts, didn't get a whole lot of action. We were starting him. Are you starting his number 1 wide receiver in the MPJ?
I know a lot of people are probably thinking if you're starting Richardson, you're starting Pittman, right? I am not. I'm sitting Michael Pittman Jr. And look, the whole reason I said to start Anthony Richardson was everything he could do with his legs. I said anything he gives you as a passer is a bonus, but I think it is realistic that he could throw for 200 yards, maybe even less this game. And if so, that is a tough environment for a wide receiver to live, especially in fantasy, to put up numbers. So I'll get away from Michael Pittman Jr. until I see it happen.
All right, sorry, MPJ. Let's go to another guy who's got a new quarterback as well, Jahan Dotson. Are we starting the Commanders wide receiver team?
I am. I'm starting Jahan Dotson against the Cardinals. I know on paper it might look like a tough matchup. I do not care. Dotson averaged the 3rd most fantasy points per target last season, and that was as a rookie. In the preseason, he saw 40% of Sam Howell's passing yards. I think he is going to have a big breakout season, and it starts the first week.
You know what starts the first week? It's a coronation. Because we're going to tight ends, and Kyle Pitts is on stardom, sitting Michael Florio's at the monitor. What are we doing for the first week, Mike?
We are picking up exactly where we left off last season. We are starting Kyle Pitts. You heard Patrick say it earlier. He had the highest percentage of passes that were uncatchable going his way last season. That is going to change, and he faced the Panthers twice last year. He saw 8 or more targets in each game, so clearly there's something in this matchup the Falcons like and want to take advantage of. And in one of those games, he went for 80 yards and actually caught a touchdown. I'm thinking a big week for Kyle Pitts.
There we go. It's coming back, baby, but this time it's going to correspond with Kyle Pitts' success. Dalton Schultz in a new spot. Are we starting him for the Houston Texans against the Baltimore Ravens?
I had been saying all summer that I think Schultz is like more of a safe tight end, but I'm still going to sit him in week 1. It is CJ Stroud's first start in the NFL, and it is a tough task going on the road in Baltimore against that Ravens defense. And last season, Baltimore allowed just 319 yards and 2 touchdowns to tight ends the entire season. They were in the bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed. Look, I know tight ends, sometimes you can't do better, but I think this week you could find a better option than Dalton Schultz.
All right, so no start for Dalton Schultz, but if you want more starts and sits, we got them from Michael F. Florio. Of course, go to NFL.com/start-sit to see all of them, but he's got Drake London, Chris Godwin, Sam Laporta, and Juwan Johnson as starts, but the sits go for, and don't call Micah Homer. He's got Gabe Davis as a sit, Marquise Brown, Greg Dulcich, and Dawson Knox all as sits.